My honored elder sister, in order to marry her childhood sweetheart, the young general, did not hesitate to threaten with her own life. Yet who could have foreseen that after the wedding, she would discover the young general was hopelessly addicted to gambling, squandering the entire family fortune in no time and eventually even wagering her as collateral. As for me, I was the one who married the fourth prince, whose health had always been frail since birth. Later, the fourth prince successfully seized the throne, and I, by his side, became the empress revered by all. My honored elder sister, filled with resentment, hid a blade and slipped into the palace. Pretending she wished to reminisce about old times, she drove the dagger viciously into my chest. Su-mo Wan, she sneered, from childhood, I have always been nobler than you. Even now, fallen and scorned, I can still trample you beneath my feet. If heaven is unjust, then I will destroy you. Ha ha ha. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the very day before she summoned the young general to our estate to propose marriage. My honored elder sister feigned an outbreak of hives, using it as an excuse to dissolve the engagement. Later, she even stooped to drugging herself so she could crawl into the bed of the fourth prince. I could barely suppress the smile at the corner of my lips. A gold-plated chamber pot, that was all she was scrambling for, and she remained eager to claim it. Both my honored elder sister and I had been reborn. In this new life, the very first thing she did was deliberately drink almond tea to trigger her allergy, causing red welts to spread across her skin. Her face swelled like a pig's head, her once lovely features became unrecognizable. General Zhao, who had long secretly cherished her, hurried anxiously to the residence. But the moment he saw her face, his proposal choked in his throat. General Zhao subtly hid the betrothal letter inside his sleeve, standing there in awkward silence, undisguised aversion in his eyes. At this moment, my honored elder sister let her eyes brim with tears and spoke, her voice feeble and sorrowful. General Zhao, it was because I mistakenly consumed something that my skin has become like this. The physician says this affliction may never be cured. In this life, fate has denied us. I can only hope to be your wife in the next. Seeing her so sensible and resigned, General Zhao nodded repeatedly, as if pounding garlic. He instructed his servant to leave the ceremonial gifts behind, then mounted his horse and departed without looking back. I turned to see my honored elder sister secretly drinking the antidote the physician had prescribed. The corners of my lips curved ever so slightly. My dear sister, I thought, may this marriage you plotted with such care truly be worth all you have sacrificed. I had assumed she would resort to the same old tricks and beg father for help. Yet to my surprise, she acted even more ruthlessly. When father and the rest of the family came to the West Wing, we arrived just in time to see her tangled intimately with the fourth prince. Their clothes were disheveled, her cheeks were flushed red with a shame she could not conceal. Under countless stunned gazes, Su Qingyue lay in the fourth prince's arms, her pale legs still uncovered. Our stepmother fainted from rage on the spot. Father trembled so violently that he coughed up a mouthful of blood and ordered the family rod to be fetched, vowing to beat this shameless daughter to death. In a panic, my honored elder sister fell to her knees, repeating her old plea. Father, your daughter truly loves the fourth prince. Please, grant us your blessing. Now that I am his in every way, no matter how furious you are, you must consider the greater good. Father seized the rod from the servant, about to strike. Watching her brazen performance, I could not help but feel a surge of dark amusement. So this was the famed propriety of the Prime Minister's household. Truly an eye-opener for this prince. A cold voice rang out, reminding everyone that there was still another man in the room. The moment he spoke, the entire hall broke into a cold sweat. All fell to their knees. Father bowed low, terror-stricken. Your Highness, forgive us. My daughter has been too indulged since childhood. Whatever she uttered was nonsense. Please, fourth prince, spare her. The man seated high above, clad in dark robes, betrayed no joy or anger on his face. What I have seen and heard here today, would you call it false? Su Qingyue lifted her head shyly and crawled to kneel before him, her voice soft and trembling. This humble woman has long admired your highness and is willing to spend her life at your side. Father struck her with a backhanded slap. Insolent. Beg his highness for forgiveness this instant. A quiet laugh drifted through the room, tinged with mocking scorn. The esteemed eldest daughter of the Su family, truly capable. So be it. This prince shall take her as a concubine. Make the preparations. Though Su Qingyue felt a pang of unwillingness, gaining entry into the fourth prince's residence was already the fulfillment of her ambition. I stood behind her, lowering my gaze, the ghost of a smile on my lips. Sister, I thought coldly, do you truly believe the fourth prince is your salvation? He is the most terrifying hell you can imagine. Her fate as the fourth prince's concubine was thus sealed. No matter how much our stepmother fumed, for the prime minister's legitimate daughter, the rank of concubine was already more than respectable. A fine hand of cards, ruined by her own impatience. Qingyue, you are blind. With your father's status, you could have any husband you wish. Why must you? But she paid no heed. Mother, do not fret. The future prospects of the fourth prince are immeasurable. No matter how noble another man may be, none could compare to the one destined to ascend the throne. Her words so frightened our stepmother that she hurried to cover her mouth with a handkerchief. Hush. If outsiders hear such treason, you will lose your head. Father was too incensed to speak, storming out in rage. When the imperial decree of marriage arrived, the prime minister's household busied itself preparing the wedding. My honored elder sister carried the decree before me with haughty pride. Su Mo Wan, this time, I will never surrender my supreme glory to you again. I merely smiled serenely and bowed. Then allow me to wish you, sister, all that your heart desires. Little did she know, the so-called supreme glory was purchased with her own body. In my past life, the fourth prince was not only frail, he harbored a hidden affliction that left him incapable of siring heirs. After I married into his household, he tormented me night after night, not merely with beatings and insults, but later devising the cruelest humiliation, forcing me to seduce the court ministers with my own flesh. When I refused, he drugged me and sent me, senseless, into their beds. Countless nights, I dreamed of ending my life, but if I died, everyone close to me would be buried in my place. I could not stand by and watch dozens of innocents perish because of me. The hatred in my heart was boundless. I wished only to tear the fourth prince limb from limb. Seeing that I will marry him again, are you gloating, sister? She must have thought my pallor was envy as she stepped closer to taunt me. Little did she know, that tiger's lair, that wolf's maw, I will never set foot there again. In our past life, you seized every shred of glory and wealth that should have belonged to me. In this life, I will watch with my own eyes as I reclaim all that is rightfully mine. I let out a cold laugh. Weren't you the one who swore you would marry General Zhao with all your heart? What does any of this have to do with me? Su Qingyue's face flushed red as she pointed a trembling finger at me. You. Stubborn as a dead duck. I can't wait to see what kind of end awaits you this time. I didn't bother arguing, because in our past life, that so-called splendor had been nothing but a fleeting illusion. The fourth prince was a Dayan among men. As for you, a mere concubine-born daughter, how dare you covet him? Still, since we are sisters, I would never let your marriage leave you aggrieved. I tightened the handkerchief in my fist. An uneasy feeling rose in my chest. She was plotting something again. Your marriage, she continued in a syrupy voice, has been carefully arranged by mother and father. You're to wed the Marquis of the Western Quarter. They say he is remarkably handsome. Since you are so gentle and considerate, you'll surely make a fine stepmother to the Marquis's son. Su Qingyue laughed so wildly her hairpins tumbled from her bun. She didn't even bother to fix them. I bowed my head to hide the smile creeping across my lips. A wealthy, handsome husband, and I wouldn't even be expected to bear children. Where in this world could I find a more fortunate arrangement? What puzzled me was why father insisted my honored elder sister and I must marry on the same day. On the morning of the wedding, I sat in the bridal palanquin, clutching the hem of my gown, heart fluttering with uncertainty. To marry a stranger, how could I not feel apprehensive? The palanquin slowly came to a stop. I exhaled, long and quiet. Fine. Since things have come to this, I will simply have to face whatever comes. First bow to heaven and earth. Second bow to the elders. Husband and wife bow to each other. Enter the bridal chamber. When the ceremony was over, the matron led me into the new chambers. I drew a few deep breaths to calm myself and waited in silence. I waited and waited until deep into the night, but the Marquis never appeared. I yawned again and again, my eyelids growing unbearably heavy. If he delayed much longer, I feared I might fall asleep where I sat. At last, the maidservant spoke up softly. Madam, the Marquis has retired to the study. You would do well to rest early yourself. Hearing that, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. So be it. At least I wouldn't have to attend him tonight. Although, next time, it would be nice if someone told me sooner. Suppressing a spark of annoyance, I lifted the red veil and called Nian Shu to help me change out of my gown. But Nian Shu was fluttering about like a frightened sparrow. Miss, how can you be so calm? If word spreads that your husband didn't enter the bridal chamber on your wedding night, the entire city will laugh. Especially since you married on the same day as the eldest miss. How will you ever face the Marchioness then? Trying to soothe her, I teased lightly. Then fetch me a rope, and I'll tie the Marquis up and drag him back here to consummate the marriage. Little did I know that outside the door, two silhouettes stood listening. The door creaked open. Gu Moshing entered, his expression dark as night. Behind him, his attendant was pale as a corpse, cold sweat pouring off him in rivulets, as if he'd heard something unspeakable. The man clapped both hands over his ears, wishing he could vanish altogether. Greetings, Marquis. It was over. My dignity, scattered to the four winds. I dared to peek up at the man before me. Sword brows, luminous eyes, a bearing at once unbending and elegant, it was hard to look away. Indeed, he was exceedingly handsome. I must have arrived at the wrong moment. His voice was low, tinged with ire. Any later, and it seems my presence would not have been required. I ducked my head even lower. Forgive me, Marquis. My words were thoughtless. Being left alone on my wedding night, I could not help feeling slighted. His gaze wavered for a heartbeat. As he turned away, I seized the chance to lift my eyes, shimmering with unshed tears. To be humiliated the very night I entered the household, I fear the Marquis's family will never accept me. Please, have pity. Rising, I took up the nuptial cup and knelt, offering it to him with both hands. He did not help me up. Instead, he stared at me with a complex, searching look. At last, he accepted the cup and drank it down in one swallow. I exhaled shakily, almost relieved, when suddenly he ordered someone to bring a bowl of medicine. I can grant you the title of Marchioness. But in this household, there will be only one heir. I will not allow anyone to threaten his place. He stood with his back to me, no more than a single step from the doorway. Without a word, I lifted the bowl and drained it. He turned to me in astonishment. You agreed so readily. Calmly, I wiped the bitter drops from my lips and spoke softly. Since I have married into the Marquis's household, your word is law. Heir is your own flesh and blood. In the days to come, I will treat him as my own, and care for him wholeheartedly. The next morning, I accompanied Gu Moshing to greet father-in-law and mother-in-law. The entire residence glowed with festive red, save for the Marquis himself, whose expression remained cold and distant. I walked behind him in silence, vaguely sensing there was something different about him, though I could not name it. At the main hall, I offered tea with proper deference. Mother-in-law merely sniffed in disdain and spoke in a stern voice. Since you have wed into this family, you must know your place. If you disgrace the house of Gu, you will not escape the family law. And remember, ear is already beneath our roof. Your foremost duty is to care for him well. If you conduct yourself properly, we will not treat you unjustly. But if you dare to harbor any ambitions, do not blame us for showing no mercy. I bowed low, answering every word with a humble yes. Seeing me so meek and yielding, she eventually waved me away. Outside, Gu Mashang excused himself, claiming urgent matters in the study. At the bend in the corridor, a figure suddenly barreled into me. Fortunately, Madame Sun by my side reacted swiftly, steadying my arm in time. Had she not, a moment's embarrassment would have been the least of it. Had I been hurt, it would have been a real disaster. What worthless creature dares cross the path of the Marchioness? On your knees this instant to beg forgiveness. Only when she was sure I was unharmed did Madame Sun turn, voice lashing out in fury. Before she could say more, a shrill, mocking voice cut in. And what filthy old hag have we here? Is this the kind of servant the Gu family allows to insult their honored guests? Her words were pointed, dripping with thinly veiled malice. I looked up slowly. The woman before me had a face as radiant as a blossom, her peach blossom eyes brimming with disdain. Before the watching servants, she did not bother to conceal her scorn. She even tossed me a deliberate, taunting glance, as if waiting to savor my humiliation. I quickly understood, she was the old madame's cherished niece, Gu Anning, the prized concubine of this household. So it is elder sister, I said mildly. I came to pay respects to auntie, and did not expect to bump into you. Surely elder sister is magnanimous enough not to bicker with a lowly creature like me. Calling her elder sister again and again, posing myself as the little sister, if there were truly any dispute, it would only seem that I, the new mistress of the house, was too petty to tolerate others. Barely married, and she already meant to strike the first blow. A clever scheme, but you are mistaken. Today, I will show you who is the true mistress of this marquise household. I smiled faintly, lifted my hand, and slapped her face with all my strength. Gu Anning's eyes bulged wide. She jabbed a finger at me, shrieking. You. What are you, anyway? You were born a little better off just because of the womb that bore you. You're nothing but a contemptible concubine's child. Did you think you could swagger around this house? Keep dreaming. I had half a mind to scold her further, but then I saw Gu Mashing returning down the corridor. My body tensed, yet my voice remained cold and clear. It seems you still don't understand your place. Though you bear the Gu name, you are merely a concubine. A concubine is still a concubine. Gu Anning clearly never imagined I would dare humiliate her so publicly. A woman pampered since birth, how could she possibly swallow such shame? The instant she recovered, she lunged at me like a rabid cat. You filthy wretch, how dare you? I couldn't dodge in time. Her slap grazed my cheek, but her sharp nails left a long gash across my neck. A searing pain spread over my throat, and tears sprang to my eyes despite myself. My lord. Seeing him approach, I bit my lip and forced myself to bow, my voice ragged and sorrowful. As I expected, Gu Mashing's brows furrowed. What is happening here? Gu Anning paled at once, panic dawning in her gaze. Before she could answer, I spoke quietly. It was only a moment's carelessness from my little sister. You. Gu Anning's face turned scarlet. She clutched Gu Mashing's sleeve in agitation. Cousin, she was bullying me. She deliberately bumped into me and called me nothing but a concubine. Gu Mashing's eyes flicked to my neck, where a thin line of blood still welled up. His face darkened. Did you take me for a blind man? Gu Anning's heart lurched. Lies without evidence, she swallowed hard. She had lived in this household for 2 years and knew her cousin's temperament better than anyone. I only lost my temper for a moment, that's all. She struck me too, it should be even. She jabbed at the bright handprint on her cheek, voice quivering with grievance. Gu Yinyang was insolent. As the main wife, I was obliged to correct her. I lowered my gaze, lashes trembling, my expression a mixture of resolution and wounded dignity. How spirited, Gu Mashing said coolly. Where was that fine arrogance just now? I shivered, avoiding his eyes. When I looked up, tears shimmered in my eyes. I know I was wrong. Please, my lord, do not be angry. He watched me for a moment, expression unreadable, then unfastened the command token at his waist and tossed it to me. In this household, you may decide as you see fit. I accepted it with lowered head. Yes. Next time you need to discipline someone, have the servants do it. He paused. His gaze drifted to my hand, still flushed red from the slap. Understood. I froze, then realized he had been watching my hand all along. Yes. I bowed low. Perhaps Gu Mashang was not as cold-hearted as I once believed. Maybe it was because he had seen me wronged, but he insisted on accompanying me to my parents' house for the customary return visit. On the day of our return, the dowry gifts brought by my honored elder sister filled 2 entire carriages. Our stepmother smiled until her face nearly split. Father beamed with satisfaction. How could I ever compare to my honored elder sister? Even the boxes of delicacies I had carefully prepared earned no more than a cursory glance from father. The ritual was tedious and drawn out, but Gu Mashing's expression never once betrayed impatience. As we passed the back courtyard, we saw Su Qinghua clad in a soft pink gown, her figure delicate and demure. She stamped her foot, raising her voice to scold. Useless creatures. You let the tea grow cold and didn't even think to bring a fresh pot. If the 4th prince is displeased, I'll have you all sold. The maids and old servants quailed under her fury, bobbing frantic curtsies as they scurried away. She gave a sharp, dismissive snort, then turned, spotting me from afar. I smiled mildly and inclined my head in greeting. Her eyes narrowed with displeasure. She walked closer, smoothing a stray lock of hair behind her ear, her tone dripping with disdain. Little sister, now that you see me, shouldn't you be kneeling in proper salute? I gazed back calmly, unblinking. Beside her, her maid Wen Kai puffed herself up, pointing at me imperiously. The consort commands you to kneel. Are you deaf? I blinked innocently. A consort and a concubine are rather different things. Forgive my ignorance, between a prince's concubine and the marquis's official wife, who holds higher rank. Wen Kai's mouth opened and closed. She could not answer, for everyone knew the truth. Su Qinghua's face flushed crimson. Barely married 3 days, and you've already grown insolent. Of course, you must be proud, your marquis already has an heir and countless beauties at his side. You can be idle all day. But I, though only a concubine, am treasured by the 4th prince, who thinks only of me. Her words were smug, her cheeks glowing pink with satisfaction. I inclined my head. Sister truly is fortunate. The 4th prince's chambers are full of concubines, you must be quite occupied. She had not yet thought of a retort when our stepmother arrived, quelling the quarrel before it could ignite. Now that you are both married, the most important duty is to bear heirs. A mother's status rises with her child. Once you have a son, no amount of concubines will threaten your place. Su Qinghua lowered her gaze demurely. I live in perfect harmony with Bai Yi. I expect it won't be long before we have good news. Bai Yi was the courtesy name of the 4th prince. Hearing her boast, I could not suppress the curve of my lips. The 4th prince, who could not father children at all. Her dream of rising in rank by bearing an heir, how soon it would crumble. Then allow me to wish elder sister a swift and prosperous birth. I spoke the words prosperous birth slowly, each syllable distinct. Barely 3 days after receiving the household command token, the steward arrived with the ledgers. I leafed through a few pages but was already preoccupied by something far more pressing. This so-called heir, the D son, whom the entire household spoke of so reverently, I had yet to see him myself. As I stepped into the study, a sudden gust of wind brushed my cheek. I turned just in time, only a few locks of hair stirred in the air. Before me stood a boy gripping a short wooden sword. His stance was sharp for his age, though still unpolished. A few moves later, the guard behind me easily disarmed him. The little brat puffed up his cheeks, face crimson with rage. He crossed his arms and huffed. "Humph. So you're the new stepmother they just married in." I lowered my gaze to study the child. Round eyes, fair skin, a small mouth, he bore 3 parts resemblance to Gu Ma Sheng. I smiled and said calmly, "Indeed. But I have come here to look after you. I hear young master is rather picky with his meals, and inattentive in his studies. Your father has to manage affairs of state and still worry over you. But rest assured, from now on, I will personally oversee your lessons." Gu Shuyu's eyes flew wide with alarm. "You wicked woman. You bully Gu and Young, and now you want to bully me too. I'll tell father to drive you out." He snatched back his little wooden sword and fled in a panic. I couldn't help letting out a soft laugh. Xiandao, at my side, spoke anxiously. "Miss, you've offended the young master before even a proper introduction. The Marquis dotes on him dearly, this May." I waved a hand, smiling coolly. "He's just a child. Children are nothing to fear. The one who is truly dangerous." "Who might that be?" A deep male voice sounded behind me. "Is the Marquis himself. His temper is unpredictable and quite impossible to serve." As I turned, I met Gu Moshing's fathomless gaze, dark as a still pool. "Hard or easy, you will only know once you try." I tried to step back, but he moved swiftly, catching my waist in his arm. "Oh no. This time I've truly provoked the hardest man in this house to please. That little brat Gu Shuyu, because of him, I'd been tormented day after day. Reading, calligraphy, every task demanded discipline. I was determined to give him a childhood steeped in propriety. But Gu Shuyu loathed books and martial arts. I could only train his will by force. Each morning, I made him rise early to practice his characters. Each time, he scribbled nonsense across the page. Once, he even drew a monstrous demon and thrust it at me, claiming it was the portrait in my honor. I was so incensed I nearly fainted. "If you dare laze about again, you'll copy this passage 100 times." That evening, Gu Ma Sheng returned, only to find me mid-punishment. His brows shot up. In a stride, he tore the child out of my grasp. "Su Emma Huan. You dared lay a hand on him." Gu Shuyu's eyes brimmed with tears. He hid the drawing behind his back and began his pitiful litany. "Mother forces me to study every day. I told her I didn't like it, so she beat me." "You liar." His shameless deceit made my head throb. Learning and courtesy are the foundation of understanding right and wrong. Without knowledge, all your strength will amount to nothing but brute foolishness. My lord, Hai is stubborn. If he is not corrected while young, he will grow up depraved. Spoiling a child is no different from destroying him. Surely you understand that. The more I spoke, the more anger surged in my chest. I no longer cared for appearances. I snatched the drawing from Hai's sleeve and thrust it out. "And see this. He calls this demon me. He's lucky all I gave him was a spanking." I glared at Gu Shuyu, so furious I felt I could ignite him on the spot. Gu Moshing studied me in silence, as though trying to read my very soul. At last, he set the child back before me, the faintest curve touching his lips. "His upbringing will be your charge." Once Gu Moshing spoke, everything became far simpler. Mornings were lessons, afternoons exercises. I supervised every page of study. Though I often wanted to bash my own head against the wall, at least the boy showed a little progress. But just when I thought things were improving, the little scoundrel began to rebel again. He shirked his assignments, half-heartedly swept the study. When I scolded him, he glared back and shouted, I'm the D-son of this house. One day, all of it will belong to me. Why should I exhaust myself studying? I want to play. If you hit me again, I'll tell grandfather. I answered coldly. And what if you are the D-son? In this world, everything is determined by merit. If you refuse to improve yourself, why should anyone leave you in your place? His eyes darkened. I knew it, Guinyang was right. You plan to have a son to replace me. My gaze grew cold. So that was it, Guinyang's mischief. No doubt she had grown jealous seeing my patience with high and whispered poison into his ears. Well done, Guinyang. I hadn't yet confronted you about skimming the servants' wages, and now you came to deliver yourself to me. But first, I needed to pacify this boy. I softened my tone. I will never have a child with your father. For all our lives, you will be our only son. Really? Gu Shuyu blinked up at me. When I nodded solemnly, he leapt to his feet, brimming with glee. Father, did you hear? She doesn't even like you. All those nights you sneak into her room, she doesn't care. She doesn't even want Hai anymore. I spun around, stricken, only to see Gu Moshing standing behind us, face cold as frost. He murmured one word. HM. One son is enough. So it was true, Gu Shuyu had dug another pit for me. By the end of the month, the family banquet had barely begun when Gu Anning barged in, trailed by a gaggle of servants. She cast one glance at our table and shrieked. So you feast like kings, while every day you send me nothing but plain gruel and pickles. Tell me, mistress of this house, what exactly are you trying to do? Madam scowled, voice sharp. Anning, whatever this is, mind your manners. Gu Anning clutched Madam's leg, sobbing theatrically. Aunt, Su Mo Wan is too cruel. I have neither enough to eat nor proper clothes. She is deliberately tormenting me. I rose slowly, lips curling in a cold smile. Perhaps because you took your year's stipend in advance. The money is in your own purse, yet you blame me for your hunger. If Madam doubts me, shall we consult the ledgers? At that word, ledgers, Gu Anning's face drained of color. Her mouth worked soundlessly, but no excuse would come. Madam's eyes flashed. Leave at once. I knew perfectly well she still favored that woman, still wished to shield her. So I lowered my gaze and resumed my meal, saying nothing more. This matter need not trouble Mother further. When Gu Moshing spoke, there was no further room for argument. Night had fallen. I took my leave with Madam to rest. The old Marquis quickly escorted her out of the hall. Behind us, Gu Anning shrieked like a madwoman. You vile bitch. You've ruined me. May you die a wretched death. My lord, have pity. I let out a low, icy laugh. All the patience I had held these past days, it was time to spend it. Humph. She still didn't know she was finished. My gaze went cold as winter. Nian Shu. Nian Shu stepped forward without hesitation. With a crack like splitting bamboo, she slapped Gu Anning hard across the face. Gu Anning stared up at me, eyes wide with shock. When she finally came to her senses, all her delicate composure was gone, and she shrieked in fury. You filthy wretch! How dare you strike me? Her maids had already been subdued. Madam Sun charged forward without hesitation and slapped her hard across the other cheek. Gu Anning was left utterly dazed, her gaze fixed on me with a hatred that looked ready to devour me alive. I remembered clearly, on my very first day in this household, I'd ordered a matron to teach her proper decorum. I took a slow sip of tea and set the cup down with deliberate calm. Someone come. Gu Enyang has shown grave disrespect to the mistress of the house. 20 strokes. Her face drained of color. She began to tremble all over. You can't do this to me. I am the Marquis's cousin. I pressed my fingers to my temple with a sigh. So noisy. Madam Sun needed no further prompting. She seized a filthy rag and stuffed it into Gu Anning's mouth. I tucked back a stray lock of hair, exhaling softly. Proceed. The guards raised their rods. Their strikes fell without hesitation or mercy. Gu Anning's whole body convulsed from pain. Before 20 blows were dealt, she had already fainted. My eyes stayed cold as I glanced at the guard. Wake her. A bucket of ice water was dumped over her head. She jerked upright with a choking gasp. I walked slowly up to her, leaned down, and ripped the rag from her mouth. She gulped in air, and immediately began to spit venom again. Su-mo-wan, I'll never forgive you. Before she could finish, I raised my hand and slapped her again. My palm stung, but I only ordered in a flat tone. Continue. Leave her half her life. My voice was soft as a breeze. Yet every servant and guard in the courtyard lowered their heads, too frightened to breathe. Gu Moshing's expression went cold. If you can't keep that mouth clean, I will make sure you never speak again. Ah. Her wretched screams rang through every corner of the Marquis' estate. In the days that followed, countless servants came forward to confess her crimes, from embezzling wages to abusing underlings. Each offense was enough to make anyone seethe. At last, Madame decreed that Gu Anning would spend the rest of her life in the woodshed, which finally eased the simmering resentment of the household. With no more petty schemers to stir up trouble, the Marquis' residence grew peaceful as still water. Meanwhile, in the fourth prince's household, an unspeakable disgrace came to light. Rumors spread like wildfire. The fourth prince, it was said, was so sickly he could not father children. The entire city erupted in gossip. The third prince openly jeered that such a scandal shamed the imperial family itself. Out of courtesy, or perhaps curiosity, I prepared gifts and went to pay a visit. What are you doing here? Su Qingyue's voice was icy, every word bristling with thorns. Her face was wan, her clothes no longer splendid. No doubt she had heard the sordid tales of her husband by now. I adopted a look of innocent concern. I came to see you, of course. Tell me, did the husband you fought so hard to win meet all your expectations? She stiffened for a moment but quickly regained her brittle poise. If you came to mock me, you may leave. No longer so easily baited. A faint improvement over the past. I sighed theatrically. I only worry for you, sister. If you are happy, I suppose I will lose sleep every night. Now everyone knows the fourth prince is incapable. The throne is surely beyond his grasp. Her hand shot out to seize my collar, her voice hoarse with hatred. This was your doing, wasn't it? I brushed her fingers away and straightened my lapel. Just a trifling matter. No need to thank me. Her expression twisted, half laughter, half sobs. Su-mo-wan, don't be so smug. The race isn't over yet, the winner isn't decided. I'll be waiting to hear your good news. Shortly after, the fourth prince launched a rebellion. But before half a day had passed, every conspirator was in chains. The third prince himself delivered the memorial to the emperor, charging him with collusion, corruption, and countless other crimes. The fourth prince never realized that the one who provided the damning evidence was none other than his beloved concubine, Su Qingyue herself. That night, he was dragged to prison. The palace was sealed before dawn. All his hidden debaucheries were laid bare. Qiu Bei was sentenced to death by dismemberment. On the day of the execution, I was there to watch. I saw him torn limb from limb. A dark, exultant satisfaction bloomed in my heart. All those nights of degradation, all the humiliations, gone with him. Evil meets evil's end. It was as it should be. Before the sentence was carried out, I went to visit Su Qingyue in her cell. I told her the third prince had petitioned to spare her life. Though her face was wary, her voice betrayed hope. Is that true? You mean, I won't be executed? When will I be released? I leaned closer, smiling as I whispered in her ear. Never. His Majesty said you will rot here until you die. She crumpled to her knees, clawing at my skirts, voice shaking with desperation. Su Mo1, please, save me. I don't want to die here. Let me go home, mother, father, they won't abandon me. I kicked her away with a cold laugh. Don't delude yourself. You are the wife of a traitor, not some empress. Su Qingyue staggered to her feet, pointing a trembling finger at me. You knew all along, why didn't you warn me? It's your fault I've fallen so low. Memories flickered through my mind like ghosts. Didn't you insist on marrying the fourth prince yourself? Who else could you blame? If not for you, I'd never have suffered so in my last life. Her voice cracked in a shrill wail. Su Mo1, why is it that in both our lives, you always fare better than me? I brushed a speck of dust from my sleeve, my tone serene as ever. First, because I deserve it. Second, my last life was not so easy. I simply knew how to endure. How dazzling she had once been, only to fall so low. A pity, really. I won't accept this. I'll kill you, you wretch. She tore a hairpin from her sleeve and lunged. But before she could reach me, the guards kicked her sprawling. Learn your lesson once, and remember it for life. Did you think I was still the same Su Mo1 you once tormented? One trick is more than enough. I left the prison without a backward glance. Perhaps the bloody execution had worn on me. When I returned to the estate, my limbs felt heavy, my spirit drained. Even my appetite faded. Madame soon noticed something was amiss. Gu Masheng called for the physician. After feeling my pulse, he declared in a trembling voice. Madame is over 2 months pregnant. Nian Shu and Madame's son turned pale, so shocked they could barely breathe. I shot to my feet. What charlatan are you? Nian Shu, throw him out at once. The physician wiped sweat from his brow, stammering. I swear I am no fraud, I serve the Deuce One Hall with honor. Madam, you wrong me. But I had taken contraceptive decoctions. To say I was pregnant, was he accusing me of betrayal? Gu Masheng, infuriatingly, did not say a word. Instead, the corner of his mouth curved, almost into a smile. The madam is expecting. Uncle Zhang stepped forward with a beaming face. Issue the order, this month, everyone in the household will receive double wages. Even the physician was lavishly rewarded and could not stop offering congratulations. At last, I felt something was decidedly wrong. Had Gu Masheng been deceiving me all along? I narrowed my eyes at him. Gu Masheng, don't you think you owe me an explanation? He gave a soft cough, his voice almost sheepish. In truth, you can't entirely blame me. The contraceptive decoction is only medicine. If you wanted to avoid pregnancy, you had to keep taking it. You stopped, so naturally. He said it so matter-of-factly that I ground my teeth in fury. Gu Masheng. You dared trick me. He immediately clasped his hands in apology, bowing his head. Forgive me, my lady. I won't dare again. He looked almost pitiful as he continued. Please don't worry. I will explain everything to Hai personally. Even with a child of our own, I will never favor one over the other. A child of your own. And what about Hai? A suspicion flickered in my mind. Don't tell me, there is more to Hai's parentage. Gu Masheng's gaze softened, a touch of melancholy in his eyes. He is my elder brother's son, the only flesh and blood my brother left behind. When my brother fell in battle, Hai had only just been born. His mother came from an ordinary merchant family. My grandmother despised her humble origins and refused to let them wed. So my brother took her to a distant manor. But he couldn't bear her grievances. He resolved to join the army, hoping to win glory and earn the emperor's decree for their marriage. But fate is cruel. My brother never returned from the battlefield. When she heard the news, Hai's mother was so stricken with grief that she ended her own life, leaving only an infant swaddled in cloth. Hi is all that remains of my brother. I had no choice but to raise him as my own. 3 years later. One evening, Gu Masheng looked at me with hopeful eyes. Madam, could we, tonight? I interrupted without a trace of remorse. Not with try it here. He sighed and took a step back. Then, tomorrow. No. Tomorrow Hai has no lessons. I promised I'd take him kite flying. At that, Gu Masheng's expression darkened at once. He glared at the little brat nestled in my arms. Gu Hai, try it. Tonight you'll go sleep with grandfather. Try it stuck out his lower lip stubbornly. I don't want to. Mother belongs to me and brother. Gu Masheng immediately extended his wicked claws to grab his son. Rolling my eyes, I simply tossed Hai try it onto the bed, letting father and son wrestle as they pleased. I watched them quietly, my heart full to the brim with contentment. In this life, I was truly, deeply satisfied. The end.